Good evening, and thank you for joining us on our fifth night of our series of Q&A with the Pontiac mayoral candidates, brought to you by Pontiac United. We want to let you know that Pontiac United does not endorse any of the candidates, and the questions read tonight were submitted by you, the citizens of Pontiac. Some of the questions read tonight will be repeats. We will be asking all of the candidates the same questions. I'm Ariel Gardner, and I will be your mediator on tonight. We will be missing Damar on tonight. He did have a loss in the family, and Pontiac United is praying for him. Our candidate tonight is Alexandria Riley. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. It is so good to see you. I know COVID-19 has impacted so much of our lives, so it's wonderful that we're still here. So I thank you. I thank tonight's host, Pontiac United. Its leader, Tracy Hirsch, an amazing educator, a youth mentor, a community leader, and a strong woman of God. So thank you for your leadership, and thank you to the leadership of the entire Pontiac United. Damar, who was my friend, my prayers go out to him. I, I'll be thinking of him and praying for him and his family. Damar and I actually go way back. We used to work together in say 2004, 2005 at the Pontiac Downtown Development Authority under the leadership of our friend, exceptional Pontiac leader, Mr. Sandy McDonald, Sandy Michael McDonald. And so Damar's work ethic was always stellar, and he continues to lead in our community. And I know that great things will continue in the near future for him. And so definitely missing him on tonight, and extending our prayers to him and his family. And to you, Ariel Gardner, and also the other young lady from the city of Pontiac, Miss Jasmine Jefferson, who you two both have been doing a phenomenal job at bringing the issues to the forefront and asking all the questions of all the candidates. So for me tonight to be with you all, Pontiac's finest, along with another native son of Pontiac, Asante Lucas with Effigy Media Arts behind the scenes, bringing this presentation to all of that, all of us. But let me just say this about Pontiac United. I believe it was the summer before last, at the height of civil unrest and protest and the murder of George Floyd. Pontiac United organized a unity march where downtown hundreds of young people, hundreds gathered. It was put together in a great way. And today they continue bringing issues and bringing all the mayoral candidates together to directly talk to the Pontiac voters. So I thank you all for the opportunity, and I thank you all for the continued work that you do in the city of Pontiac. With that, my name is Alexandria T. Riley. I am running for mayor of my hometown, the great city of Pontiac. I was born and raised in the city, as was my mother, Angela Riley, as was my grandmother, the late Esselina Williams. So for many, many years, for generations, a deep, deep love for the city of Pontiac has been ingrained within me, a sense of service and obligation to something more than just me. As scripture would tell us, I am my brother's keeper, I am my sister's keeper. So for me to have this opportunity, for me to be officially on the ballot, it is an extraordinary honor. I trust and pray that it is in God's will for me to serve. As I mentioned, I was born and raised in the city. I was a student throughout the years in Pontiac schools. I went away to study policy at Stanford University and Yale University and political science and business at the University of Michigan. But I came back home. I purchased my first home here on Ottawa Drive, and I opened my businesses here. I am a licensed broker, and I am also a licensed builder, and I operate a Pontiac-based construction company. I am also a certified ICMA certified city manager. So I understand the systems and the processes of municipal government and how to be effective in those processes. I have over 20 years of experience serving my city, my community. I've spent most of my career in service to Pontiac. As I mentioned, my first job with DeMar was about 15 years ago. I worked at the Downtown Development Authority and proudly was a part of the effort to successfully secure federal uh, grant funding for our downtown facades for our business owners, and also the streetscaping project that was led by the DDA director at that time and is still in existence today. I was a workforce development consultant for Michigan Works, namely Job Link Service Center, and in that role, I helped to create thousands of jobs annually. I am the former vice president of the Pontiac Housing Commission. In that role, I worked to ensure that HUD did not disband our public housing commission and that millions of dollars in housing subsidies not be lost. And we prevented hundreds of families from being displaced, and we transitioned the agency, the Pontiac Housing Commission, from a troubled housing status to a model performing agency at that time. I am the former chief development officer for the city of Pontiac, having successfully raised millions of dollars in grant funding for Pontiac residents and effectively building partnerships with outside agencies and foundations and national organizations. And currently, I am the Director of Development for Genesee County Land Bank Authority, working throughout all of Genesee County, but most people kind of hone in on my work within the city of Flint to redevelop and to restore opportunities for equity, urban growth, development. So uh, that pretty much has been my journey. And again, Ariel, I thank you and I thank Pontiac United for the opportunity tonight. And I'm very excited about the discussion.
All right, well, let's get to some questions. So, our first question is, please state one specific tangible thing you have done during the pandemic, March 2020 to present, to help the citizens of Pontiac.
The pandemic, thank you, Ariel. The pandemic has had a tremendous impact, a really hard impact on the daily lives of all of us, particularly in urban communities and uh, namely in the city of Pontiac. I, for one, have lost friends and relatives and loved ones in the pandemic. And to all of those that have lost loved ones during that process, my heart and prayers go out to you. And those that have also overcome the virus, congratulations, as I indicated in my opening. Um, it's good to celebrate the fact that we are still here. And to all of our frontline workers, our public service workers, healthcare workers, I thank you all for your service and for the work that you did to support us in that process. To answer your question, Ariel, I have tried to do what I could within my own respective capacity in the city of Pontiac. Obviously, I work now in the city of Flint, but in Pontiac and working with those within my community, I've been able to assist individuals navigate through the processes, the difficult and somewhat tedious processes of going after PPP loans and also qualifying for unemployment benefits and receiving those benefits and making sure that they completed their applications properly. I've also supported different nonprofit groups in the city of Pontiac, namely community outreach, along with working with different seniors and senior populations within the city and within my own personal network, whether it be going to get groceries or personal items or just calling to check on them. COVID has impacted us in ways beyond just the health and wellness of our communities, but also mentally and also socially. So sometimes just texting and checking and calling and seeing if things doing, or things are going well, or people are doing better in that process. Hopefully, we are emerging as a community and as a country and all across the world right now out of the hands of the pandemic. But that has been my experience. Like all of you, I did my part as far as social distancing, masking up, going through the processes to promote vaccinations in the community as well.
And what are your specific plans on job creation in the city of Pontiac?
My specific plan for job creation in the city is building upon some of the work that I've already been able to accomplish. I previously worked with the state of Michigan, with the Workforce Development Agency, with Michigan Works, with Joblink Service Center, to help to create thousands of jobs annually for displaced workers and also young people that wanted to get into the workforce. So within Pontiac, I think it's a twofold effort. I think one, we need to ensure that businesses that want to come in the city uh, and individuals that currently reside in the city that want to start businesses in the city are supported, because that would be the vehicle and that would be the engine that creates opportunities for employment and that creates jobs and that creates tax revenue so that our city services can grow and thrive. Also, I want to target specifically young people in their primitive stages of development in high school and change the narrative and the mindset of our young folks and believing that they can start a business. Hearing 15 and 16 and 17-year olds talk about opportunities for economic improvement. And so we go about doing that by providing some of the opportunities that we had in the past. And those are workforce programs, summer youth training programs, after school training programs. So what we would like to do is match resources to our workforce development and to our training and making sure that we retool our workforce so that when we do have big companies that come into the city, they're attracted by our workforce. They know that they're ready, that they're willing, and that they're able to work, and that we are training up the next generation in emerging sectors and training them to take their rightful place into society. And also, lastly, that we are supporting small business development by preparing the resources through the nonprofit industry and through workforce development organizations to provide the skills necessary to be successful in that endeavor.
Speaking of the youth of Pontiac, we have a question stating, growing up in Pontiac, there used to be so many activities for the youth here, such as T-ball and many other activities. What activities do you plan to bring back to the city of Pontiac?
I think that is a great question. The success and the well-being of every child in Pontiac is my highest priority, and it's the reason why I'm running for mayor, because I want to make sure that every child has opportunities that I did and beyond those. So, part of the programs, there's been a major focus on recreation within the city, and not namely from the city, but from different organizations and different groups. The city has also provided some degree of recreational activities, but I think it goes beyond that. We need enrichment programs, music and arts, and young campers incorporated like programs that teach our students and teach our children the opportunities of wanting to go into business for themselves or understanding financial responsibilities and how to run households and creating a situation for them so that they can develop into caring and productive adults. So that's a definite priority, but I kind of want to expound upon that and say that for me, uh, as mayor, I think it's important to engage the groups that are already doing the work. I mentioned e-community outreach services. I think they're one group that is doing an amazing job providing case management, providing after school summer programs, along with individuals such as Richard Bell with Kids First Initiative, individuals such as Coach Sean Moore or Bree Flynn Short. So I would like to provide the means and the resources to organizations to do what they already do best, and that is taking care of our children and making sure that they have meaningful opportunities to grow and excel.
All right, great answer. Um, Nancy in District 6 wants to know, what is your plans to deal with the grocery stores and the condition of the upkeep of the stores and the quality of the food?
I think that that is an issue in the city that needs to be better addressed. I was actually the uh, in the gas station the other day within the city, and I was buying some milk for my aunt, and so I talked to gentleman behind the counter and I said, listen, the milk expires tomorrow. Do you have some more in the back? And so he said, well, I'll sell it to you at a discount. Well, obviously that wasn't expired. I said, well, do you have some more yet? And he said, no. But I know that there were, that wasn't necessarily a situation where something was expired and it was being sold, but I know that there have been situations in the city that that has occurred. And that's where we have to work with the health department and making sure that they come in and they inspect and make sure that compliance is being met with different grocery stores and store owners. One of the things that I'm doing at Flint right now is developing a cooperative grocery store in cooperation with one of the local pastors there who's working and he's receiving funding from the state. He's also received funding from the federal government to provide healthy food choices to citizens within the community and also foster an opportunity for them to specifically buy into the grocery store and have actual equity and ownership. So these are conversations that need to occur in Pontiac as far as development and compliance is concerned, and maintaining those high standards of operation for our grocery store and our residents, where we prioritize Pontiac people within the city.
And Miss Riley, they were just wondering if you can speak up just a little bit louder on the next question. They're just having a little bit of trouble hearing you.
Okay, no problem. Can you hear me better now?
I believe that's good. So the next question is coming from Paul in District 3. There is no secret that there is friction between council and the mayor. How will you work with council?
I believe that we are in a defining time in our city. Our city has gone through big changes throughout the years, and while we've made some progress, people in the city are struggling. Uh, Families are hurting. City services are lacking, and uh, at this time, the question is, how do we take the city in a new direction? Um, a house divided against itself certainly cannot stand. So, how do we get past the divisions that have prevented us from solving these problems that we continue to face year after year after year? So, I don't think that the choice is whether or not we will always get along, because I think that we will certainly have differences. But I think we can be disagreeable without being disrespectful. And I think what is at stake right now is uh, whether we're more so looking backwards rather than looking forward. So I think it's more an issue of the past versus the future, and we must move forward in building relationships. The mayor's office and the city council, by understanding that we are here to serve the people of Finance. We take an oath and we have a duty to do that. We work for the citizens. Anytime any individual goes after an elected office or seeks an elected seat, they must understand that they serve the people. So when it's an understanding of the issues that are at stake, and in Pontiac, it's definitely high stakes we want to change the current conditions of our city, but in order to have that change, we also have to bring about change and be able to come together. We got to be able to uh, push back against the divisiveness. And so, how will I do that? I'll certainly treat council members with the respect that I believe that they deserve. I will provide them with access to the information that they need in order to do their jobs. And I will also ask that they support me in doing mine. Respect, Ariel, and civility goes a long way. And the moment that I begin to think that the relationships between the mayor's office and the council is fractured, at that very moment, I will do everything in my power to try to revive that. But I think that if that relationship building is serious, and that if that approach is taken, I'm fairly confident that we can solve any problem and that we can provide the people of Pontiac, the businesses, the neighbors, with the resources that they need, and not just next year upon election, but in the many years to come.
One of the big issues in Pontiac right now are the slum lords. And Joan in District 1 wants to know, how are you going to deal with these terrible landlords that buy property, rent it to whoever, and not take care of it? And they don't live here in the city. We own our homes and live next to people who keep their yard nasty and have all types of traffic in and out.
Well, Pontiac has code enforcement, but I believe that the code enforcement needs to be applied equally across the board. That goes for residential properties, not just some that are being targeted, but all residential properties, and also all commercial properties within the city. And so enforcing that code, as well as empowering renters and letting them know that there won't be any retaliation against them if they report a code violation. And also empowering them to know that the enforcement is available at their disposal. Again, as I indicated, the city and city employees work for the residents. So uh, I believe that the problems isn't necessarily rental properties. The problem, in my belief, is our culture. Pontiac has somehow been allowed to develop a culture of renters. Uh, I believe our goal has to be develop a culture of ownership. And that culture of ownership comes from economic opportunities, educational opportunities, and confidence in your leadership and restoration of pride of being in Pontiac that comes along with that ownership.
Where do you stand on the marijuana dispensaries within the city?
I think my personal stance um, at this point is not uh, really relevant. The reality is that the people in the city have voted for it to ascertain that we don't lose confidence. I believe in the democratic process. We must act on this. Applications have gone in. Application fees have hit the city coffers. I think that out of respect for the process, we do need to move on that. And it's also a means of economic vehicle for the city. We look at other communities such as Ann Arbor, and we look at other communities around us that have implemented medical marijuana, and some of those that have also implemented recreational marijuana. And they have created additional tax revenue and additional resources coming into the city as a result of that. So as elected officials, I believe that there is a duty, whether you agree with the politics of something or not, especially within the democratic process, there's a duty to implement the will of the people. Um, to elaborate somewhat further, the amount of people, particularly young people, that voted on this issue was significantly higher than previous elections and previous ballot initiatives. And that is because young people were engaged. Um, and they came out and they voted in support of something in order to ensure them that the democratic process works and that their voices will be heard and that their voices do have power. It is imperative that this is implemented to show young people that the democratic process works overall, and that it can be used effectively for change, and also looking at it as an economic vehicle for our city.
Joyce in District 1 wants to know, if you have the honor to be elected, what would you do to build up our downtown area and to make it prosper?
Downtown area is a hot topic um, issue because when you look at cities all around us, there's been significant investment in the downtown districts. One thing about Pontiac's downtown is it has a waterway below it, the Clinton River. When you look at downtowns throughout the country, uh, they're all built around that water reservoir and source. So in Pontiac, I know there has been conversations with the Michigan Department of Transportation pertaining to daylighting the Clinton River and to also drive traffic into downtown. So number one, I would advocate losing the loop. So for us, we drive around our downtown instead of driving directly into our downtown to spur economic opportunities for our downtown business owners. And so it's very important that we have walkability and placemaking and opportunities for people to come into our downtown and not just drive around it and throughout it. But when you look at cities like Baltimore, Washington, D.C., Chicago, Detroit, for that matter, they're all built around water. So, number two would be to daylight the Clinton River. So, lose the loop, daylight the Clinton River, and also put some investment as a third component into our downtown, supporting um, using tools and mechanisms, whether it's state incentives or outdoor liquor entertainment districts, I would say, for our downtown. There have been some delays in terms of really being supportive to our downtown business owners and providing that growth and opportunities. And so I think that's all a big part of it on the economic side, but I also think there's a social aspect, and that involves the residents of our city. So anytime I go out throughout the community and talk to different residents and individuals, they talk about, do you remember when? Do you remember when we had Archimedes downtown? Do you remember when we had the African American Festival downtown, or the Hispanic Heritage Festival downtown, or the fireworks for the 4th of July downtown, or a litany of other examples that we can remember, uh, or that I can particularly remember growing up as a young person in the city of Pontiac. And so I think that it's equally important to build up our downtown so that we have these opportunities for our residents to be a part of the community and enjoy the community that they live in. So I think that economically, we need to look at the opportunities to make our downtown a more attractive, viable, walkable uh, downtown, but we also need to focus on our social aspect and the social fabric of our community, encouraging that growth and pairing it and merging it together for the enjoyment of our collective community.
So, as you know, we have three hot topics that we've been asking all the candidates. So, we're going to ask them all at once instead of having to go back to them. So, the first one is, should we bring back the fire department? The other is the Phoenix Center. What should we do with the Phoenix Center? And the third one is the recreational center for the youth.
Okay. Do you want me to go in that order? Fire.
No, you can go any way you want to.
Okay.
It's up to you.
I'll go with that order. So, with respect to the fire department, I think that ownership is important. I think that a city is defined by city services and city departments, and so a lot of our departments and a lot of our city services are outsourced outside of the city. Oakland County provides our sheriff department. Waterford Regional provides our fire department, and it is something that needs to be reviewed because this is this contract that is coming up to expire. And so I think with respect to the fire department, naturally the easy answer is to say yes. I think we should bring it back, but it has to make sense. It has to make sense financially for the city and for the residents in terms of safety and in terms of affordability. When our fire department was disbanded, we've lost all the equipment and all of the emergency life saving necessities that are required to have a robust, thriving fire department. So um, that's something that I believe that we uh, we are not bound necessarily to the Waterford Regional Fire Department. We can look at other outside fire departments, or we can do an assessment to determine what the cost would be, and to look at if there are any grants available, federal grants or state grants that would provide uh, resources to provide for a redevelopment of our fire department. But I think looking at that, we also ensure that we are not going beyond the scope and the bounds of putting our residents at any risk with response times or with their safety when they call into 911. So my stance on the fire department is if we are in a position to provide it back, I think that every department throughout the city, if we have an opportunity to bring it back in house and it makes good financial sense and it makes good sense as it relates to prioritizing the people of Pontiac, it should be explored because I believe ownership creates pride. I'm proud when I see my uncle riding in the fire department in his a uniform serving the community. I'm proud when I see my brother patrolling the street in his public safety uniform. So I'm not saying that Waterford does not do a good job um, because I believe that they do. But what I'm saying that is that there is a pride that comes with taking care of and serving their community. And secondly, uh, with respect to the Phoenix Center, I think that the details of the Phoenix Center um, deal have yet to emerge. I think City Council is waiting for a lot of those details along with the public and the residents at large. What I can say is that it was a long saga for the city, many years, millions of dollars in legal fees and costs to the city and fighting the litigation from the ongoing back and forth with the Phoenix Center. So previously, just for individuals that may not have been aware, um, yeah, I think most of the residents look at the Phoenix Center and they go back to those happy memories of concerts and events on top of the Phoenix Center. But when Pontiac went through the process of receivership and state oversight and emergency management, the Phoenix Center was slated for demolition. And the two adjoining tower owners at the time, because of the easement that was in place, sued the city, which created a long uh, situation of legal proceedings and litigation and legal fees that came about as a result of that. So, one thing that I can say is that the city is no longer in a situation of having a judgment hanging over its head. We have created some form of a public private partnership I think details about that will emerge. I don't know if it was uh, viable in terms of the amount of money that we spent, um, roughly $20 million into uh, purchasing the Phoenix Center or buying out of the settlement agreement or the required repairs that were necessary as a part of that settlement agreement. And with respect to that, I think there are opportunities for the new owners to go after some subsidies or some incentives to uh, fix up the Phoenix Center and also the adjoining towers, and hopefully restore that as a place of enjoyment for our residents and create some financial incentives for the city, and so that it's no longer a burden on us and that it's a asset for our community. And lastly, with respect to youth recreation, um, my very first job was at the Boys and Girls Club of the city on Pike Street. And um, so I'm passionate about young people. When the Boys and Girls Club closed, I went out and started youth development programs along with a friend, and we worked directly in the neighborhoods, Arborview Village, Newman Court Apartments, and Walton Park Manor Apartments. So I understand, especially providing programs, because we later went ahead and provided those programs within the schools for Pontiac schools and also Oakland schools. So I understand the importance of quality programming. And I understand also the importance of partnering for quality programming. But I will say that we cannot expect to build our children up in a building that is falling down. So what I would do as mayor is assemble a committee to look at opportunities and partner with different organizations or businesses, namely the school district of the city of Pontiac, for wraparound support programming for our kids. And that would be a major priority to provide them with accessible recreational programs and quality recreational programs that will help them grow and develop as responsible, caring adults.
Thank you for those answers. So we do have some questions from the live stream. It looks like Sean Preston wants to know, how do you feel about the transportation options currently available in Pontiac? Do we have enough options? If not, what will you do to increase those?
I do not believe, Ariel, that we do have enough transportation options throughout the city. Many veterans, many seniors, many families um, are left without transportation, or they use different means of getting back and forth and around the community. I like to look at what available funding and opportunities that we have from SMART, along with looking at, we were just talking about youth recreation, to look at opportunities that will support our children getting back and forth to recreational programming. But I think, Sean, I thank you for that question. I think that that is a concern of not just our community, but it's also a regional concern, pairing and merging the city of Pontiac with the outside region up and down Woodward, and providing access to, uh, to our community along with outside of our community is important. And I will certainly support that.
Another question from our live stream. Darcy M wants to know, you have talked about the council and landlords, but what is your vision for keeping our districts clean and safe?
Keeping what clean and safe?
Our districts.
The community, the city districts.
She didn't specify, so I'm going to go with maybe our school districts and just our neighborhoods in general.
I think that it's important to build pride in our community by having a clean, safe, thriving environment. Um, and one thing that we have not utilized, one thing that the city council has put into the budget was the means of having staff specifically assigned to taking care of and cleaning up the community along with our parks. So that's one component of it, in addition to providing for uh, some means of sweeping our streets not just twice a year. We have the equipment in our inventory in our DPW, and going beyond that and creating and fostering a sense of community. We have a lot of wonderful community groups and organizations that have stepped up. Friends of Pontiac Parks Association, they have allowed individuals to come in and adopt parks or groups, or community groups, churches, our faith leaders, adopting some of our parks and doing neighborhood cleanups and citywide cleanups. But I think it's important for the city to uh, send out adequate warning and adequate messaging and communications regarding when cleanup days will occur, when special pickup occurs, and I think that it's a effort that the community at large can continue to build upon. But I think the city needs to do a better job in caring for the community and cleaning up and using resources to make sure that our city is clean.
Michael Goodman wants to know, how would you solve the city's affordable housing crisis without opening the door to gentrification?
Thank you, Michael. That's a great question. It's vitally necessary. Pontiac has about 60% of its population that is renting right now. So we want to do two things, and that is we want to create home ownership opportunities, and we also want to ensure that affordable housing is available to individuals that need it. So working with the Michigan, uh, with MISHDA, with the state MISHDA, and with different nonprofit developers or developers that get incentives for housing developments and subsidies for housing developments to earmark a certain percentage when they are getting those incentives for affordable housing. But I think we need to go beyond that and to create, again, opportunities for home ownership, and creating that sense and fostering that sense of pride within our community. But I think that a lot of development has not necessarily in recent years happened, and going after low income housing tax credits or partnering with MISHDA for those housing developments. And I think that we need to be more aggressive, and we need to step forward and emerge in our position as far as creating and fostering home ownership opportunities and affordable housing alternatives.
Thank you for that. Yvette, District 5 wants to know, what will you do to ensure that minorities who make up the majority of the city have the same business opportunities as large business owners in the city?
I think that it goes back to small business owners and local business owners being provided with opportunities, irrespective of age, irrespective of minority, irrespective of um, socioeconomic background. But I do think that it's important to note that certain businesses have not had the same advantages of other businesses. And going back to what I was saying about working with our young people and having the conversations that traditionally and historically uh, different families have with their children at the dinner table, around the dinner table. So we want to create opportunities for financial literacy. We want to create incubators for small business development and growth. And we go about doing that by walking small businesses that are starting up through the process and providing vehicles with nonprofit agencies or with foundations or with banks and funding sources providing and pairing those, merging those resources with the small businesses that would like to get started, because that's the engine, that's the vehicle to create long-term growth and sustainability in our city. So by utilizing all the tools and all the resources and our partners and nonprofits to help any business and to create revolving loan funds to support those businesses who might not have the seed money that want to begin or might not go know how to go through the process. One thing that I'm working on right now and that we're doing in the city of Flint is working with local agencies that walk local developers or individuals or faith leaders who may not have the background in development, who might not know what a pro forma is, or who might not understand a subsidy or a tax credit or uh, a business plan, going through that process and providing individualized strategic care and planning to help them and assist them get over some of the initial hurdles for success.
Marlene, District 4 wants to know, what is your proposed vision for Pontiac within a 5 and 10 year span?
Well, my proposed vision for Pontiac initially is having a government that works for them, a government that can provide.
Could you speak up just a little bit louder? It seems like we lost you in the beginning of that.
Okay, my vision for the city is ensuring that we have a government that works for the people of Pontiac, that provides for and prioritizes Pontiac people. We have a lot of we have jobs, for instance, throughout the city, but Pontiac people are not getting them. So to merge and pair our resources in the community and go after additional federal funding sources and state funding resources for our community and make it create opportunities for our citizens to thrive and succeed. So, in a vision of that is focused on our neighborhoods, making sure that our neighborhoods are safe, making sure that they are sustainable and vibrant, and creating opportunities for our children, recreational opportunities that support their growth and development, honoring our seniors, making sure that the the community centers, the senior centers that they frequent are clean and safe and have the upgrades necessary for their enjoyment, supporting our working families and having services that you have to support and grow your community.
All right, another question from our live stream. What skills do you have that you feel will directly benefit the city of Pontiac?
Well, I believe that I have a lot of experience. I've worked on numerous levels throughout the city, serving my community. One of the things that I believe that I will be able to to bring to the office is the ability to bring people in our community together. Pontiac, I believe, is one of the most uh, uh, diverse communities, but yet it's one of the most segregated communities. Young people don't necessarily bridge the gap with the older generation and vice versa, or it's fragmented based on one side of town to the next. But I think our differences are more so um, uh, what we have more that unite us than divide us, I would say. And I think that we can work well together to support somewhat of a melting pot of diversity, of cultural experience. And I believe that I'm uniquely qualified to create a system for bringing our community together and foster an opportunity for our community to come together. And I believe that based on my experiences, I understand government. I've worked within government for numerous years. I work within government now, and I believe that I will be able to successfully go and seek resources and bring resources back to the city of Pontiac that will directly impact our citizens.
Now, at this time, we like to ask all the candidates, What is your why? Why do you want to be mayor of Pontiac?
Um, I think that we are in a critical time right now, and the city ultimately needs, uh, I would say, three things. One, an individual that can, as I indicated, bring the city together, irrespective of young versus old versus socioeconomic standing, no matter what side of town you grew up on, um, whether you're a chief or a husky, irrespective of race. Certainly celebrating our diversity, Hispanic, Black, white, Asian, Native American. That's the kind of experience that I believe that I would bring to the office. I am certainly someone who knows our community, who cares about our community, who uh, truly loves our community, someone who understands municipal government and urban development. And I believe I'm the only candidate with the experience in that area, uh, someone who understands policy, appropriations, and can roll up their sleeves on day one to get the job done. That is what I've consistently done. um, so we must prioritize Pontiac people. That's number one. Uh, Number two, we need somebody who can go after resources, as I indicated, and be successful. And I've also consistently done that. I brought millions of dollars into the city of Pontiac, namely, and also into other urban communities. Our government needs to prioritize people, but also to respond with resources. And the third thing I would say is telling the truth, telling the truth to the people of Pontiac, even when it is when it's not popular. Standing up for what's right, fighting for the people of Pontiac. That's the kind of experience that I think that I bring to the race. That is what I have demonstrated throughout the years, and that I will continue to do. And I will, um, I'll never sell my city out. I think that that's critically important. So to answer the question as far as what is my why, as I've traveled throughout the city, and I tell people I'm proud. I'm proud to say that I'm from Pontiac, but my experience has been a tiring. When I tell people I'm from Pontiac, I get the oh, or well, thank goodness you made it out. And I'm certainly tired of that. Uh, it was not necessarily an easy decision for me to make to run for office. I very much uh, like my job now. I love my staff. I enjoy doing what I do, but it is it's not home. It takes a lot to uh, to run for public office. People will talk about you. They'll lie on you. They'll stop speaking to you. They will ultimately drag you through the mud for trying to do the right thing. But that's what this is about. Running to better my city. So I figured that I could manage all the hard parts with running, but the most important question was not necessarily whether I could win, but should I? Um, was there something that ultimately uh, I could provide in terms of leadership that would be that I could do more effectively than any other candidate? And I think that I can bring the city together. I can prioritize our people. I certainly can respond with resources. I know our city. I grew up here. I love our city, and I will continue to speak openly and honestly with the people of Pontiac about restoring city services and also serving them.
Question from our live stream. The Ascend Foundation wants to know What programs or plans would you implement to deal with our recidivism dynamic? What do you see needing to take place so that our brothers and sisters have a healthy, supportive environment to rebuild in?
So that comes from the Ascend Foundation. My brother Kano Phillips there. I think that is a critically important question when you talk about individuals coming back into the workforce. I think that they need to be supported. I think that even when we look across the broad spectrum of crime within our community or communities across the nation, crime stems from a lack of opportunity. So I think that uh, there need to be partnerships made with different nonprofit groups and organizations. I think that there need to be opportunities created within our government by which jobs are encouraged or supported or offered to individuals that may have had some blemishes in their past. I think that they certainly deserve a second chance and they certainly deserve an opportunity uh, to provide for themselves and their families and create pride in their lives. That is one thing that is a uh, acute priority and will continue to be a priority in my administration. And it's part of the change that we need overall in the community. It's something that has not been prioritized in the past, and it will be prioritized with me as the next mayor of the city of Pontiac.
Another question coming from our live stream. What is at the top of your agenda if elected to office?
At the top of my agenda would be to initially, number one, get independent um, independent audit, forensic audit, to look at where we stand financially. I think there may be some misrepresentations out there in terms of where we stand, in terms of finances and where funding has been going. So that would be number one. I would want to know exactly where we stand as a city financially, so that we could set further priorities. And secondly, I would look at opportunities to bring back our community development block grant funding in the city of Pontiac. Uh, we are currently a part of a consortium with Oakland County, and we are, by the standards of HUD, we are a entitlement community that, based on our population from our last census count, we are a metropolitan city. But what yet we are one of two metropolitan cities across the entire United States of America that is a part of a consortium that has the consortium administer our CDBG entitlement funding. And as a part of being in that consortium, there's a different formula that is utilized to capture our 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 CDBG funding. So off rip, we're spending about 20%. If we get $1 million, 200,000 of that is going for the administration to Oakland County for those funds. It's a priority of mine to bring back, to insource that department, to hire adequate staff, capable staff, trained staff that will bring that department back in house and recapture funding that we're losing out on each year. So those two things are top priorities initially.
All right. And here in Pontiac, I'm sorry, do you hear an echo? It went away. Here in Pontiac, we love our seniors and our seniors love their buildings. In what way are you going to help the senior citizens and keep the senior citizen buildings up and running?
I think that the senior buildings right now are not to adequate standards. I certainly love my seniors, and they have been an intricate part of our history. They serve as a wealth of knowledge, and they played their part. They served this community, and now it's their time to be celebrated. and supported by us in government. So I would look at, I was talking about the CDBG funding. That revenue that comes in from CDBG can be used for a wide array and multitude of purposes. I would look at using some of that funding to update and modernize the two senior citizen centers throughout the city and to make that investment in them and into their space that they utilize so that they can enjoy it and have quality programming and services there.
Another question from our live stream is, how can people get in contact with you?
People can get in contact with me directly. Uh, I want to make sure everybody hears me. My telephone number is 248 Riley for you. That is 248 745 3948. Once again, that number is 248 745 3948. They can also get in contact with me on social media. I am on Instagram. I am on Facebook. I am a resident of this city. I was born and raised here. I shop here. I eat here. I live here. I've been a part of the fabric, and I'll continue to be here. I made my investment here, purchased my homes here, and so I am accessible. I want individuals in the community to reach out to me and engage with me. And I'm asking actually people to get involved in this campaign to support me in my journey to become the next mayor of the city.
All right, we have a question from our live stream. How do you plan to work with the police to help combat the crime in our city? Also, how can the city assist them? And that's coming from Kim in District 4.
What was the second part of that question?
How can the city assist them, as in the police officers?
Well, I think it's important to note that right now, the police department, in the past, it was a Pontiac Police Department, and now we are policed by the Oakland County Sheriff Department. Uh, and so when you look at that contract and when you look at how they service us, I think one thing that can be prioritized is community policing. And that could be something that could be negotiated within the service contract that they provide to allow for additional targeted um, support for community policing. But I think, again, we have to go back to what causes crime, and that is a lack of opportunity. So if we support our community in terms of supporting our young people, supporting uh, individuals that are re-entering our society, and supporting opportunities for growth and advancement for people of Pontiac to be prioritized, then that will do its part in reducing crime within our community and for us to grow together as a community cohesively.
All right, this one is coming from Maria in District 7. She says, growing up, Murphy Park was a beautiful place to take your kids to play, and the rental building was just as nice. Now there are drug deal exchanges that happen here and trash everywhere due to no trash cans being put in the park. There's no running bathrooms and no place to sit. How do you plan to bring this park back and add more activities for families to enjoy? It's not fair that our children have nowhere to play.
When we talk about Murphy Park, I do want to take this opportunity to recognize two Pontiac individuals, or I should say groups. One is Mr. Chambers, Mr. Jonathan Chambers. I call him Mr. Chambers because I went to the AKA Debutante Cotillion with the son. So he's Mr. Chambers to me. But he certainly did his part as a resident and as a citizen over the course of the winter to create some opportunities for our young people for sledding. And also, I want to recognize friends of Pontiac Parks for cleaning up and supporting the efforts there at Murphy Park. And lastly, Murphy Park Summer Camp. So I believe it's been the last 20 years. And so when the city went through the process of receivership and state oversight, citizens such as Portia Fields Anderson and Joe Woods and other individuals, Ms. Queenie, Ms. Hawkins, uh, Jill Hill, they all stepped forward. Um, and I'm sure I'm missing some names, Cheryl Morway, uh, Nancy Staub. They all got together and they supported the programming for our children directly within the park. So I didn't want to not recognize them since we were talking about Murphy Park because they played such an instrumental part of that park. But I do think in terms of the city, we need to take a real look at our parks and our park space. I believe through the process of the the parks master plan, we are now able to go after additional resources from the Department of Natural Resources, from the DNR, go after some additional funding to allow for uh, improved equipment and as far as playscapes for our children. But I do think that we also need to have a conversation about potentially um, looking at methods of consolidating some of the park space, making sure that we have major parks and neighborhood parks, but looking at what we can manage and what we can handle as a community if we are unable to support the financing and the ongoing operations of those parks. Because unfortunately, right now, uh, Park may be a park that is greatly utilized, but another park across town throughout the city may not be as utilized, but the same resources are going into the same park across town as it is going that no one is going to, that it is in terms of another park where you have a great degree of participation from citizens. So I think we need to have a hard look and a tough conversation about exactly how we will comprehensively address that and go after additional funding and resources to make sure that our parks standards are high, just like any outside community, so that we will have the running, operable bathrooms and the garbage cans and all the means of which we can support a healthy experience for our residents to enjoy.
All right, we want to give you this time. The floor is yours to speak to the people.
I'm sorry.
Just want to give you this time to speak to the people.
So this is my wrap up.
Yes.
I would like to again say thank you. Thank you to Pontiac United. Thank you to you, Ariel, for hosting and for the questions and the participation. Thank you to Tracy Hirsch, along with thank you to uh, Asante Lucas and Effigy Media. Um, and, I just like to say that this election is certainly critical. It's critical for our community. I believe that change is needed right now. Uh, Part of the change that is desperately needed is to enlist ultimately uh, the people of Pontiac in the process of city government. It's about us ultimately coming together, uh, pushing aside that silly idea overall of uh, outsourcing um, things in the city or that we don't have value. Um, we have a wonderful city. We have a great community. We have talent. We have people. We have know-how. Quite frankly, we have the resources overall to do better and to do much better. We have a government that has not necessarily prioritized Pontiac people. We need a government that prioritizes Pontiac people, a government that is accountable, a government that is transparent. I believe that the people of Pontiac right now deeply want somebody who is going to um, talk straight to them about the issues that impact their daily lives, how they will be able to keep food on their table, live without fear, crime happening next to them, uh, close to their homes, have a decent shot at opportunities to succeed or to grow or to start a business or, simply ride down the street in their city and have street lights and have uh, street signs. And when they ride down the street, not blow a tie rod or blow a tire. So they want someone who um, will make sure that the government our city government is responding to them directly. And that is what I will do as Pontiac's next mayor. So I am asking you for your support. I'm asking you for your prayers. I'm asking you for your vote and for you to believe in the promise of Pontiac. I believe it is our time, it is our future, it is our city, and I am certainly confident that brighter days are ahead. Together we can, together we will, for the betterment of our city. This election is critical. It cannot be left to chance. So please vote Alexandria T. Riley for mayor on August 3rd. I thank you for listening. God bless you. Good night.
Well, thank you for joining us on today. We want to thank you for taking out the time to speak to the residents of Pontiac and just for joining Pontiac United. We also want to remind you guys that you can replay this live stream. It will be on the Facebook page and also our YouTube page, which is Pontiac United. It will and you can watch all of the ones that we have done thus far. And please join us again on Wednesday. We will be speaking with the current mayor, Deidre Waterman, at 6 p.m. We also want to give a thank you to Effigy Media with Asante Lucas for producing and providing the live stream for us. And again, we want to pray for Damar in his time of loss. Thank you for joining us this evening, and we will see you again on Wednesday.